The Plotcast Podcast with the Potty Plotters.
Hello and welcome back to the Potty Plotters Plotcast podcast. This is Season 2, Episode 38. And I'm still Julia.
And I'm Elaine, and that sounded very professional, Julia.
Well, I thought one of us ought to make the effort.
Considering we didn't even bother last time.
I think we did, but later on. That was all Gareth.
I thought we've got to bring this back in order. She's going off script every time. Not that we've got a script, but she's going...
List. Why don't you just say we're going off list?
Yeah, you're going way off list.
Yeah, I have to put a list, otherwise we'd forget. A leaning towards. Anyway, yeah, what?
So, anyway, we've managed to collar a weatherman to talk to us today.
Yeah, we'll have a chat with him.
You say weatherman, it's Rob Rose.
Oh, rude, isn't it? You can tell Gareth was his friend, sort of.
Yeah, it was.
Not for very long, yeah.
Oh, dear.
Till he wants
Poor
something.
Rob.
Yeah. Anyway, we've got nobody's left us a message or anything, Elaine. I'm feeling sad.
Well, we've only got 2 more episodes after this left. So if you do want to send us a question or a message, or send us your recipes, or send us a picture of your squashes and pumpkins for Halloween, then you can send them to us on Facebook, Instagram and X or Twitter at Potty Plotters. You can email us naughtycorner@pottyplotters.uk or check out the website pottyplotters.uk.
The Plotcast Podcast with the Potty Plotters.
Well, I thought we'd do something different today.
Really?
Yeah, even though I'm not in charge.
So what are we going to... We're not talking about gardening in any way, shape or form. What are we talking about?
Netball. Let's do netball.
Let's freeform, shall we? See where this takes us.
No, well, I've got a lot of gardening magazines, got a lot of books and the rest of it. And then, but with the weather being as it has been, I know, I've got my old books out.
Your ladybird
books. And I've got quite a few of these, actually, Julia.
You big
And
kid.
I do love them. But I tell you what made me smile was whether or not old books have any new information, or if new books have got new ideas compared to the old ones. And I tell you what, there's not a lot between them.
Oh, go on then.
No, honestly, I just find it fascinating that, you know, you pick up books or you've got new books. Listen to this. Introduction. Indoor gardening fascinates children as well as adults because it provides a great deal of pleasure in watching things grow. Now, isn't that just a lovely start, don't you think? Plants can brighten up any room, and all that is needed for them to develop is sufficient light, air and water. You'd learn well if you read this book. They don't like extremes. They don't like extremes of temperatures. And I was thinking, I remember scraping the chuffing ice off the windows when I was little. And yet the plants still survived. Plants in pots make lovely presents, especially bulbs in bloom at Christmas and tiny plant arrangements as Easter gifts.
This is where you've had all your ideas from, isn't it?
Well, I tell you what, I should have opened this book a long time ago.
It's like Jack and Ori, isn't it?
But when you look at these, Julia, look at the pages in here.
The Ladybird, that's quite small text.
Yeah.
Because normally it's quite... The Ladybird books that I remember were quite bigger text, and there's less in them.
Yeah, that was your Janet and John books. This has moved
Ladybird.
on. This is
Ladybird.
But honestly, it is worth looking at, Gareth, because there are so
I
many
might
things.
learn something.
Yeah, you could. But there's so many things, honestly, how to take cuttings in simple words. But look at all these.
Yeah.
Honestly,
that's targeted at children,
easy.
and we could do that.
Yeah, but look at that. They've got a perfume bottle, and they've taken leaves off African violet plants just to get them going. And what a good idea, because they've stuck them in the top.
That's brilliant, that is.
I tell you what, nothing's changed, and I'm just going to find the date on this.
And how much was it?
It was 2 and 6.
What's that?
2, that's... let me just think a minute. Right,
You've had that a long time then, haven't you?
Yeah. But isn't 2 and 6 5p? Wait a minute, 5.
Before my time, Gareth.
Way before mine as well.
What she's talking about.
Anyway, it's ages
Anyway,
ago.
she's happy, but she is right in the fact that a lot of
Elaine Crick, PD, pre-decimalisation.
I can't work in decimalisation. 1969.
Oh, I mean, she is right, because I've got some old gardening books that Barry plot. I don't know what plot he is.
Along there on the left.
There, about number 18 or something. And he gave me an old gardening book, and I like the old gardening books to look at as well. And, you know, not a lot has changed. The only thing that I would say has really changed significantly is the emphasis on using pesticides and chemicals to control a lot of diseases on plots, where now we wouldn't be encouraged to use those kind of things. That's the only thing that I've noticeably changed with the methods. Oh, Gareth's going back.
Some indoor gardening hints.
Oh, yeah, go on then.
Don't overwater your plants. Give just enough to dampen the soil.
Yes.
Don't use cold water. Let it be tepid.
Yes.
Yes.
Don't disturb new cuttings.
No.
Don't stand your plants on the mantelpiece where there's a fire or near a heater.
Or a divorce.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Don't take a plant from a warm room into a cold one.
No.
Do use rainwater for watering plants if possible.
Yes, we've said that loads of times.
Do stick a fork in every few months to gently turn the topsoil around plants in pots.
That's to stop all the mould and creatures that live on the top. That's a good idea.
That's good advice.
Do have
isn't it?
lots of fun experimenting with growing cuttings and seeds and watching your plants grow.
Oh.
That's experiments.
Better than Googling, isn't it?
Yep.
You see, I haven't got a problem with any of that.
No.
And I love the pictures that are there.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are very relevant to today.
Yeah.
1969, Julia.
Nothing changes, and that's
No.
and when we talk about the allotment and people ask me why I love the allotment, I always say because it could take me back in time. It doesn't matter which decade I'm in down here. I could be in the 1950s.
Yeah.
And there it is in black and white, really.
Look at that. And didn't we talk about that last week?
We did.
Yeah.
Tell people what it is, though,
So
Gareth, because this is a podcast, not the telly.
So the page I went to was page 38, which was growing bulbs. Continued. Growing hyacinths in glasses. This way is perhaps the most interesting because you can watch through the glass the growing bulb roots. If you don't have a special bulb jar... A what?
A bulb
bulb
jar. You
jar,
have a
you
bulb
can,
jar
yeah.
for hyacinths.
Yeah. Then find the narrow jar, as in figure 1.
Which is what I'd said to
Yeah,
you before.
jam jar.
Yeah,
use
jam jar.
Or use a drinking glass, as in figure 2. For the latter, cut a circle of card out a little wider than the jar so it rests on the top.
Easy, isn't
If
it?
the bulb appears to be going mouldy, it could mean that the place is too warm or damp.
There you go.
Where?
Well,
You see, it's
To bin
telling you
it and
that.
start again.
I think you added that, Gareth.
I know I did.
yeah,
But
so
do you know what I mean? There's
There's a
it's
picture here of them
easy.
using what appears to be a grapefruit skin.
Oh.
to
Yeah,
plant
to plant,
in.
yeah.
So they've planted in the grapefruit skin and then they're going to pop it in the soil,
I
obviously.
wonder if we could do that, Julia.
We could.
There's a bit of an experiment.
Yeah,
Yes.
grapefruits.
So
No.
it looks...
No, me neither.
I've got a tin of grapefruit. I don't think it's the same thing.
No,
is it?
no, don't do that, Gareth.
So they appear to use a skewer. Are you two okay with skewers? Because I know somebody here is quite accident prone.
We know.
To poke holes in the skin, having eaten the grapefruit, not before.
Oh, yeah. Well, grapefruits in the 60s were very popular.
Yeah.
Honestly, they were. Yeah, you used to
They're
have
quite
grapefruit
exotic.
for breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they, and
still
then
do. You can
yeah.
still...
But a lot of people can't
I've
have them,
not.
can they? Because
No,
of their
'cause it's in
medication.
blood.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's got something with the
Something in
medication.
it.
So if you eat the grapefruit, stab the
Yeah.
holes in it,
Yeah.
and then fill it with soil, does it act as kind of a protector for the roots? Because on like figure 3, you've got little roots poking out the holes.
You know, I think we're going to have to do it, Gareth, because
This is trees
it
in
could
miniature.
work.
This is from trees in miniature.
What, like bonsai?
To obtain a
Crab apple.
No, that's not a miniature tree. To obtain a small tree for dwarfing,
Oh.
Yeah.
you can either grow one from seed, or you could find a tree seedling a few inches high growing beneath a fully grown tree. Cut an orange or grapefruit in half, scoop out the fruit. Doesn't say eat it or bin it here.
No.
Oh, it's used a knitting needle, not
What?
a skewer.
Oh, we use
You've
knitting
got loads of
needles.
What I can't understand, though, there is use the seedling that's fallen off a tree or the
Yeah,
pit.
just leave it where it is.
Well, it's not necessarily going to come out as a dwarf tree because it depends on...
Well, if it's contained in an orange,
This has changed.
Yeah, but it's
now
going to
then,
change
hold
over...
on a
Oh,
minute. Now what we got?
Let's spot the thing we don't really want on there.
oh, we don't want the wild
Ivy.
ivy.
Oh yes.
To
No.
strangle everything.
No.
Well, I mean, it's got its place. Let's not
Yeah.
knock it. It's got its place. but-
Bonfire.
Yeah, not on our allotment.
No,
because
we
don't
don't
want
want
anything
it.
strangling what we're trying to grow.
But the moral to the story is you can buy all the new books in all the world and they are lovely, and I have been reading cover to cover Rob Smith's of lately.
Yes.
However, what I would say is I've probably had more pleasure from reading the old books and smiling to myself thinking nothing's actually changed. The
No.
difference is the price.
Oh, yeah.
2 and
This was
6,
a
which is-
matter.
don't know.
Two and 6, which I'm sure it's about.
You're the only one here that will know
10.
this.
It was 10 pence because a shilling was 5p. So that's 5, 10, and a half is 12.5p.
Bargain.
I actually probably got it at that price, but you can pick them up nowadays for £1 or so. But have a look in charity shops, because I think that you'll get lots of hours of entertainment just by going through that, thinking, what on earth are they doing here?
Can we try the grapefruit thing?
Yes. Yeah, I think we should, just to prove them right.
Okay.
All right, let's do it. Do you eat grapefruits, Gareth?
Occasionally.
Hints and tips for shortcuts to success. The Potty Plotters Plotcast.
Now we're going to have a chat with Rob Rose, local weather presenter for our region, the East Midlands, and he's very jolly. He likes to put on a lovely colourful tie to cheer us all up. And he never delivers any good news, does he?
No, that's why he has to look
The
jolly.
smiling assassin.
Yeah, because he's not going to tell us what we want to hear.
Well, I'd rather have that. I'd rather that than somebody who goes, don't go out, it's going to chuck it down.
Well, we go out anyway, don't we?
Yeah.
Go on then, let's listen to him.
The weather's very changeable at the moment, isn't it? And mainly because of that is we've got various areas of low pressure. Now, usually this time of year we do expect low pressure, but not as much of it and not as frequently over our part of the UK. So we have this thing, I don't want to get all too scientific now, but we've got this thing called the jet stream. That's about 5 to 7 miles above us, and it blows fast flowing air from west to east. Now what that does, it usually sits a little bit further north, which means most of that low pressure falls over the northern parts of the UK, Scotland and so on, so they get lots of the wet weather. What's happened this time, it's found itself pushing further south, so most of that wet weather has been going over central England, which has been rather unusual for this time of year. So what we have seen is one of the wettest Septembers on record for 10 counties.
Wow.
Well, it's been the wettest summer, hasn't it? Surely.
Yeah, well, there's lots of data out there at the moment, and it certainly looked rather unsettled. Now, one thing to point out is that we seem to remember lots more rainfall than we do sunshine. So if you kind of cast your mind back to June, July, we was actually recording short spells of heat waves back then, and actually one of the warmest, starts to summers. But then you come to the end of it, and it looks to be one of the wettest. Yes, but September, I mean, records we have been collected since 1836.
And what records have you collected since 1836?
Well,
carpenter's bread.
I look very young considering my
your advanced years.
Yeah, it's incredible.
What can we do to push this weather back north? Because I actually moved from the northwest to get away from the wet weather, and now it's followed me. Yeah, can I send it back?
It's funny because I've got a friend who lives up north as well, and I often say to him, "Oh, you've had rubbish weather." It's been the other way round, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It all depends on the jet stream. I mean, there are breaks in it, and if it does break, then it kind of does push further up to the north, and certainly as it gets cooler, that will certainly influence it, because the further south it is, the warmer it'll be, and especially as the Earth rotates as we head towards winter as well. So I think it will go back to where it should be, and we should have a fairly average winter ahead of us. But certainly I think if we all get a fan, plug it in and point it to the sky, we might be able to just kind of push the rain clouds a bit further away from us.
Rob, we're recording this a couple of weeks in advance, and this goes out about the last week, the penultimate week in October. So just before the weather's supposed to turn for November, when it gets all murky and stuff. But I've started to see the S word pop up on my social media feeds in the last couple of days, the Snowmageddon word, that seems to have sort of an annual revitalisation at about this time of year, and people seem to jump on it and go, oh, we're going to get snow. Are we going to get any snow this year, or are we going to be waiting until sort of the January, what's now become the new traditional winter of January, February, March time? Because I think people just seem to jump on it as soon as it turns a little bit cold and gets a bit more murky and the nights are drawing in. It's suddenly you get the, it's going to snow.
Yeah, I mean, the recipe for the snow, it's like making a cocktail, but it's only a certain method to do it. So I would hate to put on record that yes, it's definitely going to snow or it's not going to snow, because it's so difficult. You have to have different
He's had training from the Met Office,
I know,
ladies. Yeah.
I know.
Remember what we did the other week?
Words. I know the
He's
words.
been in Parliament, he's had some training, this lad. So in summary, you have to have a mixture of cool air, well, you have to have warm air mixed with cool air, everywhere, and the way it falls, it's a very special recipe. It's science at the end of the day. So to predict snowfall is very hard. More so easier in higher wintry grounds where we know that the air is obviously a bit thinner and a lot cooler. It wouldn't surprise me, and it depends where we're drawing in air from, particularly when we draw in northerly winds. That brings down some Arctic air mass, and that's what we're seeing towards the early parts of October when we had Hurricane Kirk pass through. That brought down some strong northerly winds, and certainly for Scotland, those temperatures plummeted into minus. So we did see some snow there. But for the rest of the UK, especially inland, it's very hard to predict.
I mean, I listen to you most days. Well, it's just
his
one of
wife
those
doesn't
things.
even do that.
I know, yeah, I am that listener, yeah. And Rob, I've noticed that you use two words frequently, and they are possibly and probably. Now,
Yes.
they actually don't mean a lot, do they? So I'm going to start and pick those words up. And I'm possibly dependent on the weather. Because whether it's nice or not, well, that will depend on possibly what I do, but probably nothing. So I think it's really lovely. You should use them more frequently, possibly.
And well, I got the best training to use those words from my wife, who she says, "What time will we be home?" And I say, "Well, possibly around 5 or 6, and we'd be able to do the washing." Well, probably if that works, but they're my safe words, if you've noticed.
Yes, I have.
Just because I thought when I trained to do the weather that I would be 100% accurate all of the time, and I soon realised that actually weather is so unpredictable that hourly it changes.
Yeah.
So therefore I decided to start using those words, and I think you're right.
I know I am. I'm not possibly right.
You're very probably right, aren't you?
So we don't know what's happening. That's in summary, because I don't mind doing a quick summary. Do you remember when they used to do a summary on the weather? So in summary, not summer, but in summary,
Yeah, don't get your
we
summary
don't
clothes out.
know.
Yeah.
No. We don't know what's going to happen. And just follow your app. You've got a happy app,
I've
haven't you,
got my
Julia?
happy app. We follow that as well. But in summary, Rob really doesn't know because it's all very possibilities and maybes.
Yeah.
But what we do like is to see his face on the television. So that's all right.
That's a nice
Yeah.
thing to say. Yeah, I don't
That's
mind
a
listening
nice-
to
yeah.
him either. Are you delirious?
I'm taking
Julia?
that as my text tone now.
Yeah, I'm a bit delirious because you wouldn't believe it. There's smoke clouds over Derby at the moment because
terrible.
Elaine has got the most out of control bonfire on her plot, and I just walked through it and I felt like I was on Stars in Your Eyes.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, you've not mentioned that on the weather, have you? Because it's
No.
very cloudy over our allotments.
Very localised.
Yeah, very
If I go and
localised.
check the satellite radars now, it's going to be pinging all over.
Hey Rob, when you get really famous as a weatherman, do you get to go on Children in Need and do that dance routine and all that kind of thing?
You don't want to see that.
Hey, imagine. Now, I will let you into a little secret here. Not many people know this. I have something very special up my sleeve for Children in Need this year, and let's just say it involves
Is it
a lot
pudsey?
of fabric with clouds on.
Oh no! If it's dressing up, oh no!
I mean, he dresses up every day, doesn't he? I mean, you've seen his tie.
Yeah.
But he's going full out.
Oh look.
No.
That
I'd rather if he
tie-
was full in, actually, to be
Oh,
honest.
that is brilliant!
Well
if you need
done.
any material, let me know. My sister's a curtain maker.
Really? Well, that could help, actually. That would be great.
Oh, you
that
needed
cloudy
some
tie
lining.
you've seen, there's two other pieces to that cloudy tie.
Oh,
Is there a sunny tie and a rainy tie?
I've got the badges for that. A lot of people actually email me saying, we can't quite work out what the badges you're wearing are. And they're actually
He's in
weather
the society.
Ooh. The weather what?
No, I wear the weather symbol that summarises the weather on the day. But the problem is you can't quite see it on camera.
Need
But
to
everyone in
zoom
the
in.
office comes up to me and they go, "What's the weather doing?" "Oh yeah," and they just look at my badge and they go, "Oh, brilliant." Just for you, I am going to treat you to something which could bite me in the backside. But I have been looking at all the
Stand by.
data for perhaps a long-range forecast. So here's what I predict's going to happen.
oh,
Lots of probablys and possiblies.
yes, I'm count them.
Yeah, come on then.
Possibly and probably going to be this autumn is going to be wetter, windier and warmer than average, with spells of dry and calmer weather, but also some torrential downpours in between.
Well, that's not very nice.
Yeah, can we do better than that?
Can we have
Yeah, try
frosties?
again. Try again now.
Yeah, go again. Take 2.
What am I saying?
Yeah, do us a weather forecast for over our allotments. Just us.
Bit cloudy, bit
just
smoky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just over the Potty Plotters plots.
Well, whilst Gareth's there, it's going to be fairly dull and dank. But when he disappears, the sun will shine and it'll be fairly pleasant. And if he's had beans for breakfast, it can be quite windy.
I think that's rude.
We'll have that.
Yeah.
Well, so to speak. Yes. Oh, that's that then, isn't it?
Well, thank you for joining us, Rob.
Yeah.
Rose, we know you're a very busy man with lots of awards coming in. We've been in your studio, by the way.
Have you? Oh, I can't believe I missed you.
I know. We popped over to Radio Nottingham and we were taken down to see the TV studio. No one was around.
Oh, so I would have got you having a go at the weather. You'll have to come back.
Oh,
I think I stood in front of the screen. It's not very big, is it? I'd look like a giant in there. I felt like
No,
it.
I often tell the cameras to go higher to get rid of the double chin and pull back. And it's going to look smaller.
They'd have to perch themselves on the roof, really.
Have you not noticed that he's become quite a diva since the first time we ever spoke to him off the podcast till now? Now he's doing the weather. He's now Rob Diva Rose. Move those cameras. Don't turn that camera on me.
Face. It's brilliant.
Well, actually, it's a couple of digestive biscuits. You bribe the crew and they love it. Say, I'll do that.
Oh, well done, Rob.
One important note to finish on is that I was doing a bit of light reading into why we're having these torrential downpours at the moment, because in September we saw 3 times more rainfall in 10 counties, and the reason for that is to do with global warming. I know lots of people kind of close their ears when they hear about it, but for every 1 degree Celsius we are warmer as a climate, we retain 7% more moisture. So this is science, and as a result of that, when we get low pressure low pressure will condense and create clouds, and it will push air upwards, and that will condense and form rain clouds. That's why we're having torrential downpours, is because we're retaining more moisture. So a little bit of fact for all those fact fans out there.
Contact the Potty Plotters anytime on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at Potty Plotters, or email naughtycorner@pottyplotters.uk.
It's that time in the season now, Elaine. New people have taken on plots on site, and we're already seeing people wandering around thinking, what can they plant and what can they get for free? And what can they get for free off our plots?
Rhubarb.
Rhubarb?
Now, I'm actually going to dig some of mine up, Julia.
All of it?
No, some of it. And the reason being, my rhubarb patch is in the corner.
Yeah.
It gets a lot of sun, because rhubarb does like sunshine,
Yeah.
a lot of it. It doesn't like to be cold.
No.
And it doesn't like to be underwater. And you know what? It's been underwater for what seems like ever. And one of my crowns has actually rotted. I'm
Ooh.
quite sure. Yeah, had very little off it this year, and that
dear.
is across the board. A lot of people
Yeah.
have said the same. So I thought, right, dig it up, replant it somewhere where it's going to be happy.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. But how do you do it?
How do you do it? Well, you get yourself a spade.
Yeah.
And you have yourself a big breakfast to give you all the energy, because you need to get in there, and you can basically chop it up. You can get in there with your nice sharp spade, and as long as you can see, well, it depends whether you're digging it all up. If you're digging it all up, what I would do is just go round all of the edge and then loosen it and then chop it into pieces so it's more manageable.
So if I chop it into pieces, each piece will act as a crown.
It will, because as long as you can see like an eye or a knobbly bit on the top, then that shows that it's got something that's growing, and that will create a whole new crown. So you can relocate it, dig it up, relocate it. Have you decided where you're putting it?
Trevor. I don't know
You're
his
putting
number.
it in
Is it? It must be about 34.
I thought you were
think, or
relocating it on
34.
your plot.
I'm going to put some on
Is that
my
Glynis and
plot,
Trevor?
but no, that's Trevor who's moving next door.
Oh, no.
Not Trevor who's
Cryche.
moved over from Cryche.
Yeah.
They're different people. And he came over the other day like a little lost soul,
Oh,
wasn't
clever
he?
Trevor,
Yeah.
because he's actually grown himself some triangular onions.
He has.
Yeah, he was quite proud of them.
He was. And he came over to show us them. Yes, Gareth, you are looking as if to say, I don't believe it, but it's true.
No, I'm looking to say, what on earth are you two going on?
No, he came over to show off his triangular onions.
he had grown onions that had, I don't know what had happened. I think he'd planted them all a bit close together, and they'd actually grown into triangles rather than the circular shape.
Do you know what he actually did?
What did he do?
Right then, so it's a funny thing, isn't it? Because you think that you'll always remember when you've got seedlings and seeds and you think, oh, I won't label them, it's all right, I'll remember.
Oh.
Yeah, well, he fell into that trap. I'll remember, but actually, he'd forgotten.
Oh.
So what Trevor did was he had some leek seedlings and some onion seedlings that he'd grown from seed. Now then, what he did was he ended up putting his onion seedlings into the holes which were about 8 inches down that were there for his leeks.
Right.
So his leeks only got an inch, if that, of soil. But I tell you what, his onions, they went right down.
And they came out.
They came out triangular because, as you know, Julia, you make holes, don't you, for your leeks?
Yeah.
And then you drop your leek seedling down the bottom of the hole.
Yeah.
And then you leave it for the soil to just gradually sort of backfill over. And that is how it turned out to be a triangle. Honestly. Can you believe that?
Try peeling and dicing those.
Well, honestly, it made it so much easier because one side was flat. Well, all the sides were flat, so it made it much easier. So, yeah, I was very happy with that.
There you go.
Going back to your rhubarb.
Yeah.
Don't you find that rhubarb takes over?
It does grow, but really what you need to be doing is chopping it back every 5 years, if not every other year.
Every couple of years it always benefits from being thinned out. So actually it's a good thing when people come along and say they're looking for some rhubarb.
Yeah, get back to the point, because it's Trevor with the triangular onions. Who wanted
Things that
rhubarb?
never happened. People have said, fancy some rhubarb.
Oh, they do down here. Oh, everybody wants a rhubarb patch.
He was trying to barter, I'll tell you the truth.
What else did he want? Was he trying to offer you his rectangular or triangular onions?
Yes. In place.
Look what I've invented.
Yes. And then, by the way, have you got any rhubarb? And I said, yes, I have. And you can have some. And I will be taking it out this week. Yeah. I shall be digging it up, chopping it up, moving some out of that corner because it's too low. And then Trevor, clever Trevor, he can have
I wonder what he'll do with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he'll plant it properly. So he'll probably forget what it is.
Yeah.
I wonder what that'll come out looking like.
So now is the time to do it. Now is the time to do it, though, isn't it, Elaine? Because the plant has gone into dormancy. Yeah. It's all kind of melted down on the top. No leaves on the top. Nothing. So literally dig it out, give a chunk to your friends, make them dig a slightly bigger hole, put loads of muck in it because they love muck. They love a lot of moisture and nutrients. And then you just want to plant it just slightly above the ground.
You do, and that's where some people go wrong, in that they dig a big hole and they whack it in the hole. You don't need to. It needs to be ground level. Yeah, definitely. And then just cover it, as you've said, with a smattering on the top. They'll be dead happy.
And in that first year, really, you don't want to be taking anything. You want to let that rhubarb settle in and get going before you start taking it. So give it a year of rest. Go round to your friends, because loads of people on allotments have got rhubarb. It grows almost like a weed on an allotment.
That's what I was getting at, that it becomes quite invasive.
Yeah.
So we had some, when I lived at home when I was a child, we had some that we'd inherited in the house. And it was...
You had it in the house?
No.
That's interesting. Is that a house plant? Do you need your indoor gardening book, Gareth? That's where you've gone wrong, lad. Here, have this. It was 2 and 6.
I've got 12 and a half. We inherited it when we bought the house, and it was at the top of part of the vegetable bit of the garden, and it seemed to take over, and my dad did nothing with it, and it just seemed to every year would just be more and more. And to me, it's one of those things where you just go, either you want it and you're going to eat it, or actually get rid, because it's a bit of a pain, because it does take over and overshadow everything.
It can do, but it doesn't grow that quickly. It does take some years. But what I'd say is, I tell you what though, Gareth, it's much sought after out here, and people who haven't got gardens love it, and it costs a fortune in the shops, so it's worth growing, even to give away.
Even in the shops, though, it's quite a short season, isn't it? You don't get to see it that often, and when you do, it's for a very short period of time, and therefore because it's a short time, it's expensive.
Yeah.
And that's because you want to take it when it's got the most tender stems. You don't want to be taking it in July time when it's all starting to go really stringy
and rubbery and horrible, don't they?
It needs a rest over that period.
Yeah.
And plus you've got that time of in the summer, you've got all kinds of other fruit that you can then be harvesting and enjoying.
Yeah.
It's more of a winter kind early spring.
It's one of the
Rhubarb
first
crumble.
out, isn't it?
Oh, lovely.
So there you go. That's what we'll be doing later on this week.
The Plotcast podcast with the Potty Plotters.
And your squashes and pumpkins now. I came round to your plot a little while ago and had a nosy at you.
Oh, did you? Oh, you did?
Was she in?
Yeah.
Yes, she was
Yeah,
working very
I
hard.
was.
And I looked in her greenhouse and she'd got a strange assortment of squashes.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, you can't say that about Elaine. She's not got a strange assortment of anything.
she has. And why has everything come out so different, Elaine?
Right, so what we did was we saved seeds from little munchkin
Yeah.
pumpkins last year, and we said, right, let's have a go at growing them
Yeah.
from the seed from the pumpkins.
Yeah.
They were little tiny pumpkins. They're about 3 inches.
About
2
a
inches
tennis
high.
ball,
Yeah,
weren't they?
that's
Yeah,
it. Yeah, definitely. Good description. And they are creamy white with a green stripe going down each of the seams.
Yeah.
Really pretty, and a lot of floral people like them just as arrangements,
Yeah.
to add to arrangements. Anyway, so what I did was planted them. Well, flipping it. I've got a right concoction out
You
there,
have.
haven't
You've got
I?
a right assortment. I mean, some of them have literally come out football size.
Yeah.
You've got one that's almost the size of a rugby ball.
Yeah.
And then you've got others in between, but some of them
Yeah.
haven't developed the shape and are
No.
more smooth. And some of them haven't developed the colour. So
No.
it shows that in saving your own seeds, somewhere along the line last year, they were cross-pollinated with
Yeah.
another pumpkin in the area. And that's why you've not got true to seed that you would expect. So, I mean, you're happy about it because you've still got pumpkins.
I'm not bothered, yeah.
But what we would say is if you do want something that is true to the seed, what you are expecting, buy them from recognised seed suppliers.
And do it now, Julia, because there are loads of, I mean, they keep writing to me, dear Elaine. And they
Again?
tell you, yeah, it's marvellous. And so I feel obliged to write back and say, oh, I'll have some of them, yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
And because they're like half price at
Yeah.
the minute, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. So why not get half price seeds? But get them now, because what we've proved
Yeah.
is that they won't come back the same
No.
as you expected.
And also, you have to be a little bit careful in saving your own seeds because they can cross-pollinate, and the resulting fruit of them can actually cause quite a bit of tummy upset.
I'm not eating them. They're only for decoration, Julia.
I know.
It's all right. You weren't bothered a couple of episodes ago about killing people, were you? When we were talking about Monopoly and Cluedo. No, that was good fun, wasn't it?
Well, that's what the
Berlotti beans.
They're not poisonous,
Don't
are
matter.
they?
No, I'm not bothered about them.
Just
But
eat them, it'll be
no.
fine. Be careful with your pumpkins, though.
Be careful with your pumpkins, and I just want to show you. Turn around, look in my greenhouse. I've had to take off the butternut squash from outside because we have had a frost, so the plants were dying back, and so it wasn't going to help support or ripen
So,
the.
but they're not the right colour. They're not
No.
yellow, are they?
No,
so
they're not.
what are you going to do with them? You've put them in the greenhouse on the staging.
Yeah, and they will turn, they will ripen over a period of time when we get a bit of sun, and they'll be fine then to use, but they're not going to ripen in the ground. The chances are that if I left them outside, they will
Yeah.
actually rot on the plant now.
Oh,
Now
right.
we're getting a frost and everything, so I've
Okay.
taken them out to protect them from the frost. But what I will say, and something you were alluding to with our friend Kev Plot too,
Yeah.
was the fact that neither of us have had big
No.
squash this year.
No, he had giants last year.
Yeah.
This year he's got some like you, really.
Yeah.
So-
Makes a difference, doesn't it?
So in effect, we
Why?
could sort of say it might be down to the weather, because last year it was
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
dry. I mean, we
Yeah.
had-
And warm.
and warm,
Yeah,
and
it
this year
was.
it's been, well, Rob.
Yeah.
Julia, what's the difference though between a squash and a pumpkin?
A squash and a pumpkin. Well, a pumpkin I would say you think of as something for carving, really.
Yeah.
And generally that's what most people use the pumpkin for, whereas squashes, you can actually use them for cooking and culinary purposes, and they tend not to be, they tend to have thicker skins, and the flesh inside tend to be much thicker and denser, and the flavour is much better in a squash rather than a pumpkin, I think. What is that the way you understand it? You looked a bit
I wondered.
then.
Like pumpkins don't save well, do they?
No.
But squashes do.
Squashes will
and
save.
you've had them for a long time, haven't you?
I mean, they'll save right the way through till about May, June next year, providing you give them the right conditions, which is somewhere that's cool, and you know, you don't want it directly in the sun or anything, but somewhere that's cool but not going to get frosted, and they usually keep quite well.
If you'd like Elaine and Julia to come to a talk for your group, get in touch. naughtycorner@pottyplotters.uk.
That's quite a lot to chat about today, but what I wanted to mention was we've already started to collect our bits and pieces for the next episode.
Oh, yes.
And the next episode we are going to be talking eating recipes. We want everybody's recipes in about things that have been proven to be really, really good. Different maybe, but really, really good.
Okay.
Have you got anything? Do you do any cooking?
Yeah.
No, anyway, it's going to be a very short episode next time, Gareth, so
welcome along to the 5 minutes.
That's it then, but send them in to us. Let's have a look what you've been making.
The Plotcast Podcast with the Potty Plotters is an Amberland Media production.